Nunavut side.
There.
And we're geographically organized.
Sure, that's
Yeah.
right.
Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's an honor to be hosting the Northern Premiers Forum here in my hometown of Hay River. Before we get into that, though, I want to address the tragedy that many of us across the Northwest Territories are feeling today, the loss of 3 members of our wildland firefighting community in a fatal plane crash in Fort Simpson. When we drove to the site today here in Hay River to go to our meetings, we drove past a lot of burnt forest. And that's not an area that's out in the middle of nowhere, that's in our community. And so we are very indebted to wildland firefighters, to community firefighters for the work that they do. It's not an easy job, and it's a dangerous job. And this tragedy really hits that home. So I want to extend my deepest condolences to those who are impacted, the family, obviously, the friends, the co-workers. We'll be keeping you in our thoughts as you go through this grieving process. And really, I've been thinking about this all day, obviously, and it really underscores to me the reason that we do this work. You know, we have people out there on the front lines putting their life on the line. And so we need to have that same determination and dedication when we're doing our work. And so that's really the tone that I tried to set today. We had a very productive meeting. This is our first Northern Premiers Forum with my new colleagues here, recently elected. And the point of these meetings is to ensure that as Northerners, we're all aware of what's going on in each other's territories. We figure out how we can work together and how we can use our collective voices to advance the interests of the North. That's one of the most important things I found in my time here, is that by combining voices, and whether it's going to Ottawa with a unified voice, we get the attention and we get results. And so it's been a very important day. We discussed a number of different topics. Of course, Arctic security and sovereignty. Everyone is talking about Arctic security and sovereignty. And so we talked about what's going on in our jurisdictions and how we can work to ensure that during this time of attention, when there's construction, when there's investments, how can we ensure that Northerners are benefiting, and that the mistakes of the past when it comes to defense and defense investments are not made again. We talked about the transformational infrastructure that the federal government is investing in across the North, and the major projects here in our Northwest Territories, as well as in the Yukon and Nunavut. We talked about RCMP and the future of contract policing, of course, in the Northwest Territories, and then the Yukon and Nunavut. The RCMP are our contract police, and the federal government has an obligation to provide those services to us. We're not provinces. We don't necessarily have the same ability to stand up our own police force. So it's important that we have a collective voice when we go forward to the federal government on that. We talked about the workforce training. Given all of the investments that we're seeing here in the North, we need to ensure our residents are best placed to take advantage of that. And of course, Jordan's Principle and Inuit Child First Initiative, 2 issues that we discuss at every single meeting, almost every meeting I'm in, these are raised because they're so vitally important. And the changes that the federal government has made to the program have really negatively impacted all of our constituents. And of course, early learning and childcare and healthcare, another two big issues that are vital to the healthy future of the North. So with that, I can hand it over to my colleagues to make some opening remarks as well, and then we can get into questions. So first, I will go to Premier Dickson. Trade response.
Yeah, sure. Good. Well, thank you very much, Premier Simpson, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'll begin by sharing on behalf of the Yukon our condolences as well to the Northwest Territories, to the firefighting community, and all of those affected by the tragedy that we've learned about over the course of the last few hours. So very, very sad, and as Premier Simpson indicated, the unfortunate reality of the dangerous job that some of those folks do on all of our behalf. That could have very just as easily have been in the Yukon or anywhere else across the North, and so our thoughts are certainly with those affected. Second, I'd like to just extend a very warm thank you to Premier Simpson for the wonderful job hosting. It's meaningful to come to the Northwest Territories, but it's especially special. It's especially nice for me to come to the Premier's hometown and riding here in Hay River. It's my first time in Hay River, so it's a pleasure to be here and to experience the hospitality of the community here. We obviously joined the First Nation as well last night and enjoyed a wonderful meal there. So very appreciative for that. When it comes to the discussions, Premier Simpson outlined some of the topics we discussed, but I wanted to highlight a significant interest of the Yukon is around the development of our energy infrastructure, ensuring that we have electricity to meet the growing demand in the territory. I know that's something that all three territories share, that we're interested in providing reliable and affordable energy to our citizens, and that's an increasing challenge for all of us as we experience the growing demand that our society and economy is facing right now when it comes to energy. We're optimistic about the future when it comes to that issue, though, and we're very supportive of Canada's electricity strategy that was released a few weeks ago that provides the commitments to doubling the grid in Canada. And so for the three territories, I was happy to see that we were able to discuss the application of that doubling of the grid here in the north, so for the three territories. So with that, I just want to, again, provide my thanks on behalf of the Government of Yukon to Premier Simpson and his staff and the teams who put together this meeting, and I've very much enjoyed my visit here to Hay River. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon. And similarly to my colleague, Premier Dickson, first off, just wanting to extend sincere condolences to everyone impacted by the tragedy that's happened here in Northwest Territories. As Northerners, we have so much in common, and first responders, whether they're firefighters, police, or otherwise, they're absolutely the bravest and the best, some of the best folks we have. So sending sincere condolences to everybody impacted. In terms of this gathering, just feeling very thankful on behalf of Nunavut government, wanting to thank Premier Simpson and his team for the warm welcome. We had a number of engagements over the past few days, including here in beautiful Hay River, my first time here, so I was very thankful to be welcomed into this beautiful community, also to get to meet some of the First Nations leadership in terms of the Katlo Diche Nation, and the welcome that we had from them was very much appreciated, as well as everyone that we were able to interact with during this trip. We have so much in common as Northerners, coming from Nunavut to the Northwest Territories over to the Yukon. We have different approaches to shared problems, and that's where gatherings like this can be so valuable. In terms of our meetings, I was really happy to have the opportunity to discuss major projects and Arctic security and sovereignty with my colleagues. I think we are in agreement that Northerners need to benefit, and Northern voices need to be at the forefront. Arctic security and sovereignty can't be something that's imposed. Approaches to it cannot be imposed on us from Ottawa. The approaches need to be done in consultation and close collaboration with people who live in the north, including Indigenous representatives. In Nunavut's case, that would be Inuit organizations. So I was really happy to discuss that. I was also really happy that we had time to touch on healthcare challenges across the north. From Nunavut, we're very interested and engaged in the federal assessment of health infrastructure and services, and we're hopeful that this will lead to real tangible impacts, positive impacts to our healthcare system in the future. And similarly to the Yukon as well as Northwest Territories, Nunavut has a keen interest in further developing our energy infrastructure. There's a number of very exciting projects underway in Nunavut, and the Nunavut government wants to be a partner in seeing projects realized. We need more greener energy. We need more energy to power our territory's economy into the future. So I was really happy to discuss that as well. And I'll hand it back to Premier Simpson.
Happy to answer any questions people may have. And I think Clea is going to be our moderator. Thanks.
So if you can ask your questions from that mic over there, just so that the folks online can hear you, and so that we can see you as well. So, your name, your question.
Emily Blake, Cabin Radio. My first question is, you discussed the Arctic offshore moratorium on oil and gas licensing. I'm wondering what the outcomes of those discussions were.
So I've publicly stated many times that the moratorium, I would like to see that lifted. It was imposed on us with, I think, 12 hours notice, and then renewed again for another 5 years. And so it's an economic opportunity that we have here in the territory. And since it was first instituted, we have negotiated an accord between the governments of Yukon, Northwest Territories, Canada, and the Inuvialuit, so that Northerners have a say in how development occurs in the region. And I think that's what we needed in place in order to ensure that the way development happens will be sustainable, and it will be in a way that Northerners are in favor of. That being said, we still need to ensure that the people of the land, the Inuvialuit, are in favor of this as well. And so it's a live conversation that I've had with the chair of the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation, and I want to ensure that we are all on the same page as we move forward together here. And so there's not, I wouldn't say there's an outcome. There's nothing that was signed. The accord had already previously been signed, but it was a good discussion. And I'm not sure if there's any other comments. No? Thanks.
And yesterday, some northern projects sort of moved up the ladder, I guess, on the major projects. But some Indigenous groups and environmental groups have raised some concerns about the major projects legislation when it comes to consultation and particularly impacts on caribou. What's your response to that?
I'm concerned about impacts on caribou, and I'm concerned about water as well. Those are two issues in the territory that are non-negotiable, and we need to ensure that those resources are protected for all time. That being said, the Bill C-5 and a potential designation is a minor part of the entire process, and there still will be consultation and work in those areas. That's the federal piece. I don't want to speak to it too much. We have our own co-management system here in the Northwest Territories that is based on modern treaties. It has the boards that make decisions on these projects have appointees from Indigenous governments, from the territorial government, and from the federal government. And that process allows community members, community organizations to have input, to ask questions, and to be informed of what is happening. And that's the way we do things in the North. The days of bulldozing projects through against Indigenous opposition are long gone. Consent is what we require now, and that's the way we've been operating. And that's actually why these projects are moving forward. Thank you.
Hello there, Mohamed from Radio Canada. As we are here to sign a partnership agreement between you three, and as there is a much focus on the North nowadays, I'm just wondering, how do you coordinate between you three to have a strong voice when you go to Ottawa?
Thank you. And hey, you want to? Or maybe I'll just start. Well, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
We get together and we meet and we have conversations and we dig into the issues. And there's differences between the jurisdictions, which means there's different problems and different solutions, but we all learn a lot from each other, and we find where there is common ground. When I travel to Yukon, when I travel to Nunavut, it's far away from here in Hay River, but I get the sense that I'm still home. Right? There's so many similarities between the jurisdictions that there's a natural connection there. And so these meetings are a way to really flesh that out. And it's not just these once-a-year meetings. We meet actually many times throughout the year, and our officials are in regular contact as well. So it's making sure that we understand where each other's coming from, what our issues are, and then learning from each other. And I'm not sure if anyone else wants to comment on that. But.
Well, I'll just say, like, the timing of these meetings is very deliberate, right? We are going to be joining our colleagues from across the country later in July in Charlottetown for a Council of the Federation meeting where we meet with all premiers. And then following that, we'll meet with the Prime Minister as well through a First Minister's meeting. And so meetings like this allow us to get the three territories on the same page, so that when we're speaking to the federal government and we're speaking to our colleagues in the South, we're speaking, understanding where each of us sit and where we have common priorities that we can share on behalf of the entire territorial North, not just any one jurisdiction. And so the timing of these meetings is very deliberate, and then the agreement that we'll sign allows us to do that in a coordinated way going forward over the course of the next number of years.
Yeah, as Premier Simpson mentioned, this isn't just a one-off conversation and then we go off and don't speak again. There were ongoing conversations between our territories on topics of shared interest. For example, I mentioned healthcare in my remarks earlier. Between Northwest Territories and Nunavut, there's a very close alignment when it comes to issues around non-insured health benefits program, which we continue to await adequate resources to be allocated towards from our federal partners. And so that's one example. Another example would be working with the Department of National Defense. All three of our jurisdictions are engaging with national defense on infrastructure, Arctic security and sovereignty, and there's a lot of value in the conversations that we have and the information we are able to share amongst each other. So there's a lot of value to our partnership, and really pleased to be part of it.
My follow-up would be on the opposite way. There are common grounds between you three, but you are also representing your own territory. How Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and Yukon do certain things differently, and what do you do differently? For example, you, John Main.
I think we tend to gravitate and spend the most time discussing around issues there where we do align. There are things that that we deal with in Nunavut, such as the fact that we don't have any connections to southern Canada. We have no roads, we have no power lines, no fiber optic cables connecting us to southern Canada. That's something that sets us apart. However, Northwest Territories has fly-in and fly-out communities as well. So, that's an example where we are unique, but we still have something in common with certain parts of Northwest Territories or the Yukon. So I think we all recognize that there are unique aspects to our respective jurisdictions, but also at the same time, so much commonality, so much similarities in terms of our common challenges.
Now we'll go to online.
Hi, this is Jeff Peltier with Nunatsiaq News. I'm actually in Ottawa right now. My questions are all for Premier Main. You mentioned in your opening remarks that you were seeking a federal assessment into healthcare infrastructure. I'm curious if you can tell us a bit more about what that entails and what you hope the outcome of that is.
Mike? Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. And so that's a reference to the assessment that was committed to in the recent budget. And so from Nunavut's side, our health department has been engaging with federal partners on this in terms of looking at the available resources that we have in territory, specifically around infrastructure, and with an eye towards gaps that need to be filled. We were very excited from the Nunavut government side to see a federal interest in health infrastructure in the north. In my opinion, it's long overdue. We need support, we need partners. We have a huge infrastructure gap that's leading to an over-reliance on medical travel. And if we can deliver services closer to home, it could benefit the territory in terms of our fiscal resources and also benefit patients and communities. So there's a potential for a win-win-win, and we're hoping that our work together is going to lead to positive impacts.
And as a follow-up, obviously, yesterday there was the major announcement regarding the consideration for Grays Bay to be a project of national interest. I wanted to get a reaction from you yesterday on that. Can I get your reaction to that now? And perhaps what other projects you want to see perhaps be considered for that consideration?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I mean, the announcement yesterday was a significant one, but at the same time, our position on the Grays Bay project is the same. The Nunavut government is in a position of offering conditional support to the project. Bill C-5 and major projects designation is significant. However, the overriding legislation that we look at from the Nunavut government's side is the Nunavut Act, which is a constitutionally enshrined modern treaty. And as you know, Jeff, the environmental assessment processes that are laid out in that modern treaty stand. They're not materially affected by major projects legislation. So the Nunavut government remains, fully committed to environmental assessment process. We believe in the Nunavut Impact Review Board, the Nunavut Planning Commission, Nunavut Water Board, and no matter which project we're talking about, our plan is to participate wholeheartedly in environmental assessment processes. There are other projects we would like to see move forward, including the Iqaluit Hydroelectric Project and the Kivadlak Hydrofiber Link, and we'll continue actively advocating for those projects.
Hi, I'm Rob Drinkwater with the Canadian Press. I'm in Edmonton. You all mentioned the importance of Northerners benefiting from these projects. What are the next steps for you guys in making sure that happens?
We talk about projects. There's a lot of projects going on in the North right now. We have investments from the Department of National Defense here in the Northwest Territories, in the Northern Operational Support Hubs in Yellowknife and Inuvik. And so there's going to be defense contracts for construction, potentially ongoing operations and maintenance, services that need to be provided. And so in that sense, we want to ensure that there is good communication between our government and D&D, and good communication between D&D and potential northern contractors. We don't want to see contracts go to a large southern company who just comes up here and doesn't hire anyone local. And so we need to, that is something that we've really been focusing on since these announcements were made. I mean, we don't invest in hard defense infrastructure. The federal government does that. And so our focus isn't that, it is how do we as Northerners ensure that there are benefits to the community and that the mistakes of the past aren't made either. In previous defense investments, there's been issues where there was segregation essentially between defense sites and infrastructure and communities. Now the Department of National Defense talks a lot about dual use infrastructure, and so we're ensuring that we can identify any piece of dual use infrastructure that we can think of that would benefit Northerners and bring that to their attention and push for that. In terms of major projects, there's going to be a lot of construction work in the coming years, so we want to ensure that we are working in conjunction with the federal government, with Indigenous governments and communities to ensure that anyone who needs training, anyone who wants training is going to have those opportunities, and that any contracts, again, use Northern contractors, use Northern labor. So this is something that's occupying a lot of our time, and we're going to ensure that we'll do our best to ensure that every dollar that can stay in the territory does stay in the territory.
I think in terms of federal investments in the North, it's important for federal partners, whether it's Department of National Defense or other potential investors, to understand that Nunavut communities and many other communities, I believe, in Northwest Territories and Yukon, are not starting from a position of excess capacity in terms of energy, in terms of housing, in terms of drinking water. In Nunavut, many of our communities are lacking in those very basic and fundamental things. And so for the Department of National Defense or someone looking to develop a major project, we're looking for them to understand where we sit as of today and understand that we don't have a lot of excess energy that we can offer up for developments. We want to be a supporting partner, but we want a recognition of the infrastructure deficits that are very real and are affecting us every day.
Oh, one more in the room if we can.
So we're talking about favorite projects. I remember Yukon felt forgotten when we first talked about major projects. Do you still feel that way? Do you think that there is any major project that Ottawa should consider in Yukon?
Yeah, when the Prime Minister announced in earlier this year the significant investment in the North, we obviously felt we needed to point out that there were no projects identified specifically for the Yukon that we thought would benefit to the same degree that we'd seen in other territories. I've made that point to the federal government. I think I've felt heard in that way, and I think that the Department of National Defense and the federal government more generally is going to be engaging with all three of us to understand how those significant investments can benefit all three territories and the people that live there. To put it in context, $32 billion is a big chunk of money for the North. It's more than double our 3 GDPs combined. So it's a massive investment. It's going to have impacts, and we want those impacts to be as positive as possible. And that's why you've heard us, all 3 territorial governments, point out that this investment is welcome, it's encouraged, but we want to make sure that it creates benefits for the communities of the people that live in the North, not just support the federal government's objectives around national defense and Arctic sovereignty. And so that's why you see us highlight so strongly the need to have strong, healthy communities as a part of our Arctic sovereignty initiatives. We want to see those dual-use infrastructure projects create local economic benefits for our communities and our economies as well. And I'm optimistic about that going forward. That being said, we're going to need to continue to push the federal government to make sure that they do engage with territorial governments, that they engage with Indigenous governments, that they engage with communities across the North when they make those significant, massive investments. And that's why these conversations are so important, because they allow us to join around those shared priorities and express them in unison to the federal government. And that's what we'll do, of course, in July when we meet with the Prime Minister and other premiers, and share that perspective that we want to see that investment, we welcome it, but we want to make sure it's done in a way that creates economic and other benefits for Northerners.
Okay, so we'll conclude the press conference there. You'll have the opportunity to interact a bit more informally at the community fish fry.
Yes.
And right now we'll move to the signing of the Northern Accord here. It's online, you can see that on our YouTube live stream as well, on 482 Saturday.
Particular order? Maybe go in there.
Okay.
Or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess this
I
is
was
very
trying to
good.
do it geographically.
Yeah, okay. Well, depends which way we're looking at this.
He's from
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Are we right? Oh, okay.
All
Okay.
right, careful, careful.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay.
And then,
Last page, I guess.
yeah, before we sign, we freeze, and then we
Freeze and look up.
Okay.
freeze and look up.
Okay. Where are we looking first?
Yeah, I don't know.
Cabin radio? Okay. Good.
Change signature pages.
Just a page. Okay.
Oh,
There you go. I'll pick one.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
complicated.
And that one's you.
Oh, there,
go.
that one is yours.
Oh,
That one's mine.
That one goes to you.
Don't film this part, guys.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you.
Hey. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
And
Well done. Yeah, thank you. You hold them up or what?
come up.
Good. One more, okay.
Please, one more. Just there. Give me your best smile. Nice try.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fish time. Ooh, nice. Yeah.
You keep the pen using pens provided by
Yeah.
Nunavut.
Oh,
They're made out of caribou.
Awesome.